Okay, so last time on Gran Turismo 4, we did the slipstream battles in the driving missions, and I gotta say, mission 23, it was a real pain in my ass, because I struggled for 3 days to try and get through that one mission. But it's over now, and basically, in terms of the driving missions now, I'll probably leave the rest of my griping to mission 34. If I do decide to gripe, that is. Or maybe I won't. Anyways, so time for our next championship event, which I have decided will be the World Classic Car Series. And the car I'm going to use for that? Well, let's use the Mercury Cougar. Since we only have another 3 events to go in the professional series, excluding the GT World Championship, of course, we are now going to head over to Mercury and do some tuning to this thing, because I'm convinced in saying we're either going to be facing off against the AC Cobra 427 or the Shelby Cobra 427, they're both the same car, or we'll be facing off against the Buick Special. So we need to put some tuning on this thing before we do anything else, because if I don't, then well, I'm simply going to get my ass handed to me, which is what I don't want. So, gonna put on the fully customizable transmission, because this car only tops out at about 123, and I'm convinced in saying with the fully customizable transmission, we'll be able to top this thing out at about, I would say, 150. Maybe 160 if we need it. And also gonna put on the drive shaft as well, because I may need that also. I'll put on the single clutch. Just because, well, it gives me that additive element of acceleration. So next up, we're going to put on the brakes, because they are definitely needed at this stage. And now we will put on the... well, because I'm trying to keep it cheap, I think the sport suspension should be enough for this thing, because I still have to conserve my money nonetheless. So, gonna put on... yeah. I figure engine tuning is obviously needed. And, well, in case of that's not enough, I'll put on the port polish and also the racing chip as well, because I'm convinced in saying they'll both be needed. I'll also have to put on the racing exhaust as well, because I'm convinced in saying we are going to be up against some serious competition here. Okay, hopefully that should be everything we need. And just in case, I'll reduce the thing of this thing down to under 1300 kilos. Okay, now I think that should be enough. And just before we do anything else, I'm going to give this thing an oil change, and also, well, I figured change the rims. So we were down to 320. I might as well give this thing an oil change because, well, it gives the car extra power. And I think the rims, they should be fine. But I am, of course, changing the oil because, well, I figure power is needed in order for me to get through this next event. And don't need to put a wing on it. I think the car is fine just the way it is. Okay, let's now head back to the professional events. And our next championship event, the World Classic Car Series. And where if we win, we will get a total of 50 grand, as well as 10 grand, depending on how many races we win. It's a 5-race championship, as we're heading to Fuji Speedway 80s, El Capitan, Nürburgring, Monaco, and Laguna Seca. A white-hot battle between the still popular cars of automotive history. Let's go. And unsurprisingly, we have the AC Cobra in this field. But aside from that, we've also got an Alfa Romeo, a Nissan Skyline 1500, a Nissan Silvia, and a Nissan Skyline Sport Coupe. I better make sure I keep the traction control on this thing before we do anything else. So, I think it's fair to say this is definitely going to be a challenge. But anyway, I've also improved this thing by at least 140 horsepower, or 130 horsepower I should say. But anyway, I'll give this thing a test drive in practice. Oh yeah, I forgot I needed to adjust the speed on this thing as well, or else I'm going to be a sitting duck. Okay, I think that should be enough. Alright, let's go. Now, I will test this thing out in practice, just to see how it rolls. I did put on the sport tyres for a reason. Yeah, I definitely don't need the engine tuning on this car for this. I think that's probably the one thing I don't need, in all honesty. Yeah, okay. I'm convinced in saying engine tuning is not needed for this. Okay, well we've set our lap, so let's now go and take the engine tuning off, since we probably don't need it. That was a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. So before we get on with the race itself, I don't think we need the engine tuning for this. So I'm gonna take the engine tuning we had on off. I'm convinced in saying we have enough motor out of the car to actually put on a pretty clinical performance from what I can see. Okay, traction control is still on. I'm also going to put the speed down a little bit because I don't think it needs to be as high up as 13. Okay, let's now get on with the racing. So, race 1 of the World Classic Car Series. And for the first race, it's only 1 point. However, it's probably going to be a little harder now because, well, I did of course take off the engine tuning because I was convinced in saying that was the main reason why I qualified so well. at the front of the pack. And understandably, the AC Cobra does, of course, get the advantage off the line over me, but I technically have the advantage by having a higher top speed. So hopefully we can manage to get to the front of the field. Or if we don't win the first race, then that's also fine. But either way, I did of course have to put on the racing transmission, because if I didn't, then there's a very real possibility I would have no chance of beating the Cobra. Because the top speed of this car normally is about 123, maybe 124. But whereas with me putting on the racing transmission, I've put the top speed to over, I would say, I think 150, from what I can see. Well, the Cobra is close. So, I think this is going to be an interesting tussle. As he passes me down the front stretch. So I think it's fair to say he definitely has the speed. However, I have the handling. And I think it's fair to say that is where my upgrades will come in handy. But either way, we've definitely kept it close so far. And like most of the racers in the Pro Series, I reckon this is going to be another close one. Oh, and the Cobra goes wide. So I think that pretty much hands round one of this championship to me. Pretty much on a plate. Because he's now ran wide, and that's pretty much given the win to me. Of course, I did also put on the Sport soft tyres because, well, I was needing that little bit of extra grip in order to at least make this thing more drivable. But either way, the Cobra basically hands the win over to me. It's the AC Cobra, by the way. Not the Shelby Cobra, even though they're both pretty much the same car, but either way, by default, I win race 1. Bogged down on the line because I had less power, but either way, because the Cobra ran wide at the long sweeping right-hander, that was basically how I scored the win. And the rest of the field is way the fuck behind us, because the rest of the field is so slow. Anyway, that was race 1. Now we move on to race 2. So 10 grand for winning race 1. I am glad to say we're up against the Cobra instead of the Buick Special, because I don't know how I would have handled going against the Buick Special. Anyway, do I have any replays saved from Fuji recently? I figure it's worth a look. Oh, actually, why don't I wait until the Nürburgring to save the replay? I'll be guaranteed to get some good shots of the Nürburgring. I hope, anyway. So those are your point standings after race 1, as the bottom of the field is basically Nissans. And so, here we are now for race 2 at El Capitan. Reverse. Let's see how we go. I'm convinced in saying qualifying probably doesn't need to happen, because I'll probably still put this car on pole position anyway. And also because, well, the only real competition is going to be myself, and basically the AC Cobra up front. So, yeah, I'm convinced in saying this is not going to be too much of an ordeal for me to pull off. In terms of scoring the overall win. Okay. Anyway. So, 0.7 of a second is what we're down to. And because the AI don't tend to run very fast around El Capitan compared to the player, I'm pretty convinced in saying this is not going to be too hard for me to pull off. The way I see things. As the Cobra runs wide, I step on the brakes to make sure I don't run into the back of him, because that would be stupid otherwise. And through the tunnel we go. I'm now less than 1.3 seconds behind the Cobra. So I think it's fair to say that at this stage I definitely look to be within striking distance of the Cobra. Although, then again, if I do wind up losing this race, then personally I won't mind either, because I'll probably just put on the engine tuning and then just, well, try this again afterwards. I honestly don't care either way, because, well, I'm convinced in saying that most of these races are going to be pretty easy for me. And since our next race is at the Nürburgring, I think that's going to be plenty of corners for me to realistically get the leg up on the Cobra. As he now hits the wall, we cross over the bridge, I'm less than 1/10 behind him. We're definitely going tooth and nail with each other at the moment. I leave him all the room on the outside. He obviously boxed me in, I didn't want to cut the corner. And now heading through this sharp left-hander. And now it appears as though from here it's going to be hard to tell who will win the tussle. I did of course have every right to go to the inside, but again, well, the Cobra once again looks to pretty much have the advantage over me in terms of acceleration. But we're still fighting. I'm definitely having to go hard for this one. I'm also pretty sure that if this was thought to be a 1-point race, then, well, obviously that's a lie. This feels more like, I would say, a 20-point race. I think the Cobra is going to have me here. I'm not close enough to get a slingshot. Oh well, it's fine. So, that race was a lot of fun, I'm not going to lie. I did also wonder if it was going to be just a matter of time before the AI eventually beat me in a championship race. And in all honesty, I'm okay with that. I kind of figured my streak of winning championship races was going to end eventually, even though it was very minuscule with only 6 straight wins. But altogether, I still believe we have a shot at this thing. So the Cobra now takes over the lead as we're both tied with 16 points. I at least figured it was necessary for me to make the second race more interesting, because, well, I wanted to. So $6,000 for winning. I will obviously have to come back and do that race later on, but now, on to race 3. And we are now at the Nürburgring. And you know what? I'm going to put my engine tuning back on for this. Because I'm convinced in saying that with the straight lines we have, it's probably going to be needed. And I'm going to adjust from 12 on my gear ratios up to 14. Because, well, we do need that extra speed if we're going to fight the Cobra. It's also because, well, we're tied for the lead, so it's kind of a foolproof choice. So the first time we are actually racing at the Nürburgring in this game, if I recall correctly. First of many times we will take to the roads of Nürburgring Nordschleife. So, let's see how we go. Of course the Cobra obviously starting up front, because why wouldn't he be? And let's try and see if we can get to the front of the field here. Just gotta clear these Nissans, and then it's just me and the Cobra. Also, once I've cleared the fucking Alfa Romeo. And a little bit of contact there, but I think we should be okay, as the Cobra has already vaulted out to an early lead, which is kind of what I would have expected, but again, I do have the superior grip, so I don't think it's going to take me too long to catch up to him. I did also put on engine tuning because, well, the Nürburgring is pretty fast. And I did also do an adjustment on my transmission as well, because we have a 4-second gap to overcome. But because the Nürburgring has a very long lap in this game, it's fair to say that speed and grip are no doubt going to be the names of the game here. And because, well, we're still driving classic cars, obviously there is less grip available to us compared to what it would be with most cars. But I am closing the gap. The gap is now less than 4.3 seconds, as we're basically driving two 60s Legends. I've driven a total of 21 miles now in this car, if you can believe it, so far that now brings my overall total up to 540 miles driven in terms of A-spec miles. And as I would have expected, I'm now just 2.25 seconds behind the AC Cobra, as we've now passed 540 miles driven. It's easy to say where the battle is at this time, and of course I did go of course for the grippier choice because, well, we're basically doing sprint races here with the laps that we're running, and because the Cobra has less grip, that's how I'm effectively eating into his lead. So trying to limit the wheel spin as much as I can, and the gap is under 6/10 now, so it's taken me almost half a lap to get to this point of the race, but I am here now. Still getting wheel spin in certain areas, but that's expected because, well, obviously it's an old school muscle car, and typically when it comes to old school muscle cars, there is a lot of wheel spin. But that's okay, because I am steadily closing in on the AC Cobra. So 1.3 seconds is now the gap. So it looks as though there are still certain areas where he does have the advantage. And I think it is fair to say that we're definitely putting on quite a battle here. At least up to this point of the lap. Quite literally the halfway point, I might add. Yeah, I had to slam on the brakes there, or else I would have spun out. I am not giving up in this fight. I need to make sure I fight back, because if I don't, then I'll lose the lead. I really don't want this to come down to a tiebreaker if I win the last 2 races. I want to make sure I get this done the right way. And that's by beating the Cobra straight up. I kind of figured it was either going to be this or the Buick Special that was going to be my main competition for this championship. And ironically, this is quite literally a battle of Britain versus America. Even though I'm doing this for America because, well, Mercury is, or was, an American brand. Unfortunately, Mercury was another brand that ultimately died because of, well, the 2008 recession. Ironically, the same reason that effectively killed off both the popular American car brands Pontiac and Saturn that were also caught up in the well, I guess you could say the downward spiral of the Great Recession, because there were plenty of big name brands that did have to shut down because of it. But anyway, I'm still in battle with the Cobra. Looks like the long straightaway is going to be my best shot at passing him. And now it looks like I have no shot of passing him at all. Yeah, this might come down to a tiebreaker if I'm not able to catch back up to the Cobra. It's obvious to say that he's definitely got me pinned to the wall here. I don't think I'm going to catch him. I just don't appear to be fast enough. Unless I can blitz him on the straight. But I don't think that's going to be possible. Unless I can really close up the interval. But we'll wait and see. Yeah, 3 seconds, I don't think I'm closing that gap. I don't think I have enough power to realistically mount a charge from this far back. Oh well, looks like it's going to come down to a tiebreaker, if anything. This is what I feared was going to happen. Yeah, it's fair to say he's got me pinned in every area. Every possible avenue he's probably got me pinned. Not going to cut the corner because I don't want to be regarded as a cheater. Okay. Well, looks like it's going to come down to a tiebreaker. If anything. 2 wins in a row now for the Cobra, so yeah, I really need to make sure I win the last 2 races and see if I can beat him by winning 3 over 2. Okay, so the Cobra has now beaten me in the last 2 races, so that means he now has a 4-point swing, and that means if I am going to win this, then I have to fight back in the last 2 races. And well, considering there's a 4-point advantage between first and second, we're basically in must-win territory now when we get to Monaco. So another 6 grand on the board, and yeah, you know what? I might as well save my replay here. Because, well, I haven't got a saved replay at the Nürburgring yet. I figure that's... No, that's not what I wanted to do. Damn it. There it is. Might as well save my replay here whilst I'm at it. Since I don't have one saved at the Nürburgring yet. I'm probably just gonna record the first few minutes or so. Fortunately, however, oh, they must now be saving at the bottom for some reason. I don't know. Anyway. So that's another replay saved. And now we must head over to Monaco. And where I think for these last two races I am going to qualify. Because I think that might be needed here. And there we go, that is the end of qualifying as I finish virtually 15 seconds up on the AC Cobra. So, I'm in a good position now. I'm also convinced in saying that we do not need the engine tuning on this car now. And I'm also gonna put the gears down again because, well, I figured since we're not gonna be as reliant on speed this time, we should be okay. I think we should be okay for Monaco and Laguna Seca, as long as we get to the pole. I wouldn't be doing this, of course, if I wasn't needing to get back to the front of the field. So, first time in the race events that we are actually at Monaco. And I say in the race events because I know we drove around Monaco once before in the driving missions. So, from what I can see here, I think we should be good. I don't think the Cobra should be able to blitz me as much in this race as he did in the last two races. I think we should be okay from what I know. Because the Cobra may have the speed, but I have the superior grip. And I think it's fair to say that this is where me and the AC are very much split. The AC has the advantage in terms of acceleration and speed, but I have the advantage in terms of handling. And because I would think the AI are not going to be too strong around Monaco, I think we should be okay. Because I basically blitzed the field during qualifying anyway, so I think it's fair to say that we should be fine. The way things are currently going. So, got a 2.8 second advantage over the Cobra now, so I think these last two races should pretty much be my two races to lose. Of course, I will have to go back and do both the Nürburgring and... of course, I will have to go back and do both the Nürburgring and El Capitan over again to turn those silvers into a gold, but altogether, I'm still having fun with this, and I think that's probably all I need to realistically worry about. I have enough of a gap over the Cobra. I can definitely say just the championship itself up to this stage has been a thriller. Because the Cobra has now won 2 of the last 3 races. I of course won the opener at Fuji. But I think it's fair to say this is where my superior grip comes into the forefront. And unsurprisingly, it looks like this is where we will be here to fight back. I was 4 points down heading into this race, so I'm pretty sure we'll be tied heading into the finale. So we'll technically be tied on 2 wins apiece. And whoever finishes ahead of the other in the last race, that will be whoever the champion is. But either way, I am prepared of course to fight on, because that is what I do. As I have now driven 40 miles with this thing. And there we go. 2 wins of 4 over the AC Cars 427 Supercharged. And the rest of the field is not going to make the flag, because they are way behind us. So, heading into the final race at Laguna Seca, we will be tied on 32 points. But, yep, and that now gives me the points lead on the tiebreaker. So, if I can win the last race at Laguna Seca, then we will very much be the champions. It's basically winner take all. I can definitely say this will be an anticlimactic finale. Okay, let's go. So, final race of the World Classic Car Series. Let's now head to qualifying. Through Rainy Curve, as I am 3 seconds up on the Cobra. It very much looks like my superior grip is going to be what helps me to win this championship. I'll probably also pass 50 miles driven as well by the time we get to the end of this. And 5 seconds up. So that tells me this is going to be a pretty easy win for me. Alrighty then. So it's pretty much winner take all here at Laguna Seca. Whoever wins here is basically the champion. And because I am on the pole position, I should have a really good shot of clinching this one. I also figure qualifying was needed because, well, that's probably the only way I could realistically beat the Cobra in this. And because I'm on pole position, I do of course get the head start. Rolling start of course here at Laguna Seca, as we now head into the Andretti hairpin for the first time. First of only 2 times, I might add. We did have to deal with 2 losses in between, but we fought back with our second win at Monaco, and now all we have to do is make sure that we win here at Laguna Seca. This is very much going to be a winner-take-all finale, whichever way you see it. And the reason I have to be at the front is, well, because it will also minimise the odds of me making mistakes. I kind of knew the Cobra was going to be fast at the Nürburgring, but either way, I did of course choose to accept my losses, and hopefully if it's possible I can manage to rebound with 2 straight wins. And so we begin. So 1.8 seconds is now the gap. And it looks as though we are very much going to be in a top position to realistically clinch this one. It's been a pretty close race by Classic Car Series standards. The Cobra is not letting me walk away with this one, as I would have expected. I can definitely say the extra grip was necessary to make it so my car would be qualifying up front, otherwise I would just be blitzed every race. And 1.8 seconds is now the gap. So it's fair to say we're doing okay for now, to say the least. So 1.6 seconds is now the gap. He is closing in as we head up the Ray Hall straight, and now down into the corkscrew for the second and last time. He is closing in on me, but I should have enough of a gap to hold on to the win as we head through Rainy Curve, and now heading through, I think that's turn 10, and now through the last right-hander of turn 11, and we are going to win the World Classic Car Series in what was a close-fought thriller of a finale, as I won by just 2 seconds in the end. But either way, I had the superior grip, and that was what helped me to score 3 out of 5 wins. Plus the 50,000 credit bonus that comes with it. So, yeah. Champions by 4 points over the Cobra. And we will go through the rest of the results in a minute. So another 10 grand for winning, as we're now up to 170,000 credits, and another 50,000 credit check for winning the championship overall. So these are your final point standings for the World Classic Car Series, in what has very much been a thriller of a championship. So 42 points to me, as I won 3 out of 5 races in the end. The AC Cars 427 Supercharged, basically the AC Cobra, finished in second with 2 wins and 38 points, as he finished runner-up in 3 of the 5 races. Then it was the Alfa Romeo Spider in third, who finished in the bronze position in all 5 races. The Nissan Silvia was 4th, then it was the Skyline Sport Coupe in 5th, and at the back we had the Skyline 1500 Deluxe with just 5 points. So in the end, 42 points to me, 38 points to the Cobra, 20 points to the Alfa Romeo Spider 1600, 15 points to the Silvia, 10 points to the Skyline Sport Coupe, and 5 points to the Skyline 1500 Deluxe. Cool. Now we move on to our prize car, and where I'm also going to take a sip of water in the process. So for winning the World Classic Car Series, we get the Mercedes-Benz Daimler motor carriage. I'm pretty sure this was only the second automobile ever made, if I'm not mistaken, as the first one came out, I think, weeks prior to this one. We will, of course, win the other one that will come with this. So, I have 2 races that need to be corrected, and I will get through those now. And so there we go. We have now sweeped both the races we lost before, and we are now up to virtually 241 grand, which means we have now pretty much exited the poverty sphere. And there we go. That's another championship event done. And that is our second championship event of the professional series. And now we just have 2 to go. The World Compact Car Race, and of course, well, the Gran Turismo World Championship, which, as you can see here, we are not able to enter until we win these other 2 events first. So the World Compact Car Race is next. But anyway, there we go. It's done. That's weird. I don't know. I thought for sure it would have been the 5th menu theme it would have gone down to, but apparently not. Oh well. I don't care, as we've now moved up 1% flat in our progress. And in the Mercury, altogether, I drove a total of just under 71 miles. Although I did also have those practice sessions, along with me also having to do the fucking clean-up races. So, you know, that is something. Anyway, this is what we get. The Mercedes-Benz Daimler motor carriage. Also known as, I think, the second ever production car that was made. Well, the second ever motor car that was officially made. And of course, well, we cannot sell this thing for anything. And obviously, I don't need to, because, well, this is another one of those GT4 hidden gems that I think is amazing. And I'm honestly so glad to say that they really went the extra mile by giving us the first 2 cars ever made for this game. Anyway, that's what we get for winning the World Classic Car Series. And next time will be the World Compact Car Race, coming in the next episode of GT4.